What's up, guys? Welcome to Chasing Projects. I'm Jeff, and this is your SoCal fishing forecast for Thursday, August 17th. And here's our 10-day. As you can notice here, we've got a little blip on the radar of some rain coming in here Sunday and Monday, and some cloud cover. So if you haven't heard, we have this little thing brewing down here called Tropical Storm Hillary, and Hillary is looking to make a mess of what we got going on. So we'll just let this thing play out here, looking into Thursday. And we got some pretty strong winds going on here. I'm not sure what category they predict this thing going into, but if I was a guessing man, I'd say a 2 or a 3 by the size that I'm seeing here. But this thing builds strength as it comes to the west side of Cabo on Friday, and then starts to pick up speed as it heads northwest. Their estimate is traveling about 40 miles an hour coming northwest. So these things are really unpredictable, and there's no real way to know how strong or it's going to land 4 or 5 days from now. Really, the 24-hour to 48-hour window is going to be the best look at what we think we got going on here. But as you can tell, it pretty much comes right into the Southern California Bight, and where it lands, nobody knows. Like I said, way too hard to predict at this moment, but all I know is that we got something coming our way, and we should definitely keep it on the radar. Now, if you remember, we had something very similar last year, and when this thing hit the cold water, it pretty much fizzled out into nothing. And we were expecting a lot of winds from it last time. We didn't get any wind. We got a little bit of rain, just a really overcast, muggy 2 days, and most of the rain stayed inland. So wherever this eye ends up is really hard to say at this point, and that's really going to be the judge of how much wind we get and all that. But I mean, we can drop a picker here, and showing 38, 40 knots in here. I mean, it just depends on where it lands. But again, this is a nobody knows scenario. But the best we can do is follow NOAA, and they have this is the most likely track and tropical wind forecast. They have the earliest, which is Sunday at 8 p.m. Basically seeing 20 to 30 knots right at the borderline on Sunday. But most likely they're going to put it back here, a little bit slower timeline. And you can check all this stuff out on the Hurricane Center. This is all government data, very public stuff. So easy to find track, and I'm sure it'll be on the news. I know they don't have anything else to do. But this is the current nautical forecast or marine forecast for offshore. This is Santa Cruz to San Clemente Island, 60 to 150 miles offshore. So this includes Tanner, Cortez Bank out that way, where most of the fishing is going on. So 4 to 8 foot seas. It's concerning. Not a lot of wind here. So this is just 4 to 8 feet Saturday night. Depends on what the period's going to be. I've seen anywhere, I've seen a lot of stuff like 12 foot at 9 seconds. So 9's pretty tight. Just really depends on how fast this stuff comes up and what your timeline is. So again, really hard to say right now what things are going to do, but we'll keep an eye on it. It's definitely on my radar. I'm supposed to be on a 2-day trip this weekend, so I know we want to be on the bank, but we'll see what happens with this storm, what comes of it. But as we get closer, we can monitor those buoys and the winds and have a little bit better idea. But this is Wednesday evening. We're talking about something that's still 5 days away and is extremely unpredictable at this point. So we'll see what happens, but it is what it is. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look at our water temps here. And if you haven't noticed, we've kind of been dropping, especially on the inside here. We always have cooler water with our local currents in those areas, but even offshore. And I still think that this chart reads a little bit warm, showing orange is 72. I was out here on a boat Saturday, on a private boat, and I didn't see any 72-degree water. The highest we saw was right about 71, and even below that, most of the stuff was like 68.5 to 69 water. So I think this chart's still a little hot. This is the 3-day chart. The 1-day chart from today looks pretty much the same, so no real big giveaways there. But overall, the watercolor is pretty blue out there, to be honest. I know this chart is the 3-day, but see what the 8-day shows. It's pretty much the same. A little bit of green water out here on the outside, but overall, it's looking pretty clean out there. So, but yeah, let's talk about fishing. For those guys up from San Fran, they're tuning in. No sign of the bluefin since we lost some on 4th of July. Now that the winds have died down, no signs of them. A couple guys catching some albies out there by the bridge, but other than that, no sign of bluefin. Just a little bit of albacore. There has been a pretty good run of albacore up by Fort Bragg if you're up in the Central Coast area. I know some guys out there on a charter whacked them really good, I think yesterday, and they had like 60, I think, something like that. But so they're definitely biting. If you're looking for albacore, Fort Bragg would be the area you want to be at. It's probably the closest location. I know there's still a onesie twosie here and there around the bite, but if you're looking for real numbers, Fort Bragg would be the area I'd be trying to leave from. Let's talk about Channel Islands. There's still a little bit of sprinkle of sea bass showing up here. Some guys have been catching on fin bait now instead of squid. So if you get a chance to head out, you might find them, but like I said, this is really slim pickings, scratchy fishing at best. So don't really count on it. There has been some bluefin on the north side of the islands the last 2 days. People have seen them, caught them. So that's a little encouraging. Usually they're on the south side. So on the north side, something different for once in the bay. Unfortunately, this chart doesn't really show the area, but I still have some warmer water up here. And yeah, hopefully something else sticks around here. Moving down south, let's talk about Santa Barbara, San Nick. No one's really been fishing the island. It's not really necessary. I'm sure you probably find yellows at both. But again, island fishing, got to have conditions, and the wind's kind of been blowing off and on. One day it's forecasted to blow. People go out there and it doesn't blow at all. And then the day like today, it wasn't really supposed to blow, and it was pretty bumpy. So hard to really kind of judge what the wind's doing lately. Just one day to the next, not the most accurate models that have been coming in, but it is what it is. Let's talk about some more bluefin here off of the escarpment. If you didn't catch my Instagram post, I think it was like Friday, I put up a picture of all the boat traffic here, and I said, how many days will it last? 1, 2, 3, or 4 plus? And most people thought 4 plus, man, and it didn't. It lasted until about Saturday into Sunday, and by then everyone pretty much gave up on this area as it stopped biting. What makes this area different than places like Tanner or the Cortez is that there's the bank is just not high enough. It's still in pretty deep water. You'll get good currents on both sides and around the area, and fish will stack up there, but they don't really stick to a spot. Where like Tanner is much shallower water, same with Cortez. There's kind of a plateau here, as you can tell, and they kind of find the ridges, and they kind of work those same ridges all the way around, and sometimes up to the high spot as well. So they kind of like stuck like a magnet, more or less, to an island of good water and good bait. Where here you just work in a ridge, and they're going to move up and down this ridge, and we get a lot of boats on it. They start getting scattered, and they move around that, and that's why I didn't think the bite was going to last. So some guys saw that boat traffic. They tried to come fish here Saturday. They weren't seeing it. They came out to 499, and they just kept driving west until they found them. So some guys found them at the Cherry Banks right here. That lasted for a couple days. I've always looked at the spot. I never had a chance to fish it, but it's very similar to Tanner and Cortez, but I mean a lot smaller area. It's a little bit deeper. It still comes up to like 250 feet or so. A lot smaller area, but very similar setup as these other banks. So they lasted here till I think Monday or Tuesday, and then they pieced out. So, but there was some good solo fishing in this area. I know a couple guys that were looking at it, and they did pretty well. Most of the fleet that was here on the escarpment slid down to Tanner, where there's kind of been more consistent bluefin fishing. I know some of it early on wasn't the bigger stuff, but seems to me right now it's pretty good. And guys are sitting on anchor, right? So there's a whole difference of driving around, making a bunch of noises all the time with bluefin. When you can pull up, you can have 10 boats on anchor, all flyline bluefin all day. They're not driving around, not making a bunch of noise, so the fish don't really scatter like they would. You're driving up here on the escarpment. So that's what makes me think that this bite's going to last a lot longer, like it typically does. And usually the fish stick till the conditions or bait don't. So yeah, I expect this stuff to last 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe longer. But we had this giant hurricane coming, and that's going to take your puzzle piece and just throw it around the room. So who really knows what's going to happen with that? But again, very unpredictable where this eye lines up, where the wind lines up. It's going to do a lot of stuff that you don't really see very often. So remember last year we had the hurricane come up. It came right through Cedros. The eye like just missed Cedros. The escarpment between Cedros and La Natividad is always filled with the yellowtail. Well, guess what? All the yellowtail were there not the next day whatsoever. Some of them were like right in front of the harbor, which is 4 or 5 mile ride. So it completely messed up the fishing and shook it up. So I expect the same thing to happen here, especially if the wind comes through like it's forecasted to. If it dies off like last year, then it'll be a complete non-event. Nothing will matter whatsoever. Everything will be relatively the same, with the exception of maybe a little bit more swell before it gets here. But if it dies up before it gets here, we're just gonna get swell. If this wind comes through and tears it up, it's like gonna be taking that puzzle and just throwing it around the room. So if you have a trip planned right after this storm and it does come through nasty, you can spend a lot of time driving around, and the fleets really have to spread themselves out and really talk to each other and see where the stuff lands. But it's going to take a while, maybe 3, 4, 5 days before it settles in again, maybe even a week before the fish really come back to their normal selves. So we'll see what happens. What I'm hoping for is that the stuff is going to really push some of the stuff that's been down south up. Whether it be the Dorado or Yellowtail or Yellowfin. Usually you kind of get this wind blowing that pushes the current, upstream, and sometimes it triggers fish to bite, and that's what I'm hoping for. That's what kind of happened last time. The wind died off, the fish bit really good. It was glassy out there, a little bit rainy, and it was really a non-event. But we'll see what happens this year. Like I said, no one really knows. I don't know if my trip's going to run or not. I hope it is. But yeah, not really till we get to the 24-hour, 48-hour mark where we have a real idea of what's going on. But yeah, so as far as bluefin goes, really Tanner has been the prime spot for bluefin fishing. There's still yellows on both high spots and a little bit more bonita at Cortez. There's still a sprinkle of fish anywhere in these zones. Like I said, I was on private boat last Saturday. There's been a sprinkle of fish in this coastal area here. Let me switch back to charts here so we can take a look at the water. But started Dana. First spot I really wanted to spend a lot of time at was 14 Mile Bank. And we found one foamer of like 200-pound bluefin between Avalon and 14 Mile Bank. By the time we got the spreader bar between the boat and the fish, and yeah, they sunk out. We hung around for another hour, glassing everywhere, trolling around with the spreader bar, and a couple other lures out, and just didn't see anything else. Birds were the best sign for sure. So we gave up on that. And wanted to poke around since the bluefin didn't seem like they're going to cooperate, and there wasn't a lot of volume of fish here anyway. We figured go do some kelp patty hopping and look around for some of the stuff that's been around. We went to the slide all the way down the line to the 209. Really, the further south we drove, the worse it looked. We got the 209. There's one little area of patties that had a little bit of life on it on the northeast corner, and there's some guys that jumped out. We're spearfishing it, so I'm assuming that one was holding. But everything else that we checked the entire day had nothing on it. A little bit of bait here and there, but no predators. Some guys that did find them had to go down to 8 pounds to get them to bite. Which, hey, you got to do what you got to do. Other guys had spears, hopped in below the board. I know Ryan sent me a pic from I think it was Sunday, and he speared a nice yellow down here that wouldn't bite on a patty. So give him the old silver arrow. That'll work just fine too. But they always slid back up to the 267. Lots of boats driving around, same type of thing. Just not a lot of life, a lot of boats, and no fish. So slid back to same spot that we saw at the next slack tide, which is right around like 1:30, 1 o'clock, somewhere around there. And found the bait. It was right where we left it. It looked really thick. It was like over 100 feet deep on the screen. And the birds were lazy. They were sitting on patties. They wouldn't want to fly. We spurred them up multiple times, let them look around, and birds were cashed out, and no signs of predators. Never saw bluefin again. So we had a short curfew, so we had to be back early. But maybe saw them on sundown. I don't know. There just wasn't a lot of volume in this area. So when there's not a lot of volume, this is what we talk about, guys. Like we try and point out areas where there's a lot of volume that's worth spending your time at. Like I said, you get this stuff that's inshore. Sometimes it's scratchy, moves up and down, and to try and stay on top of it or get the work for you, it can be really difficult. So, but yeah, that's just kind of the way how it works sometimes. Moving south, there's been a little spur of yellowtail up here in La Jolla. You might find it slide up to Carlsbad area. It's moving around a little bit close to home, so if you want to poke around before the storm comes out, that might be a good option. Further down south, there's still a little bit of kelp patty action down here, guys. It just seems like this run of yellowfin and kelp patty yellowtail is just not really put together. That 7th, 8th inning, 9th innings, the season is just hasn't really shown itself. We've seen a little bit here earlier, like a couple weeks ago down here, 425, upper finger. But you see these water temps, like, dude, this is 60s. This is low 60s. This stuff's kind of falling apart here, which makes me think that this season's going to be cut a little shorter than normal. Usually we get a good run through October, and then last year we've had some November fishing, even some December fishing. But the way this looks to me, I'm not convinced. We'll see what happens after this hurricane that'll really give us an idea of what these water temps are going to do. But I'm a little concerned about this 66-degree water sitting here on the outside, especially if these northwest winds keep blowing. This warm water is going to dry up quick. So we'll see what happens, guys. Fingers crossed around the water. And we'll talk to you next week. We'll let you know how it goes. Cheers, guys. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out our website and online store at chasingprojects.com. And make sure you share the stoke.